Hi everyone, my name is Gina Greenlee and this is an experiment. For a while I've had an idea and the idea won't go away, and I'm old enough to know that if I have an idea and it won't go away, that I need to act on the idea. And I know that always that works to advantage, even if the expression of the idea or the execution of the idea doesn't go the way I think it should go. But at this age, in this stage of my life, I don't have too many shoulds. I'm just following instructions. The idea is inspiration a day, inspiration 365. I don't know if somebody is doing that. I don't care. I didn't research it to death. I didn't research it at all. I've had this idea for months and I'm finally just going to do it. So uh, that's what I'm going to do. Today is October 5th, 2021, and the idea is that I'm going to do this daily. What inspires me? That's important. I I need uh, I need inspiration to create meaning. I'm inspired by everything. So I'm going to keep it brief. So today, well, one of the things I love to do is go to the library. I love to read. I've bought a lot of books and I gave away literally tens of thousands of books because I can't, I have to start downsizing because you know what they say, they can't take it with you. I ain't never seen a U-Haul behind a hearse and all of that. So I love going to the library. It's a home away from home. It's a safe place for me, and it's just a place that expands my world. And so I was there tonight, and this is what I picked up that I found inspiring. And like I said, this is an experiment. I don't know. I might do this for 3 days and then I'll get bored. Who knows? But yeah, I'm gonna have to put on readers from the Dollar Tree. Radical Matter. I don't know. Rethinking materials for a sustainable future. I'm inspired by just the beauty of the pages, the color, the different colors, and people who are. I have to say authentically that after the murder of George Floyd, my worldview changed almost 360 degrees, and I see the world through a new lens. And when I open books, and if I don't see people of color, I put the books down because that's not what the world looks like, absent people of color. And so I'm not interested in reading books that perpetuate that narrative. So I love everything about the book. It appeals to me, it inspires me because I feel like I want to make stuff. I do make stuff, and maybe that'll come up, maybe it won't. Um, but I want to make stuff, and I want to make stuff from all the crap in my house, and so we'll talk more about that. So that's that. I go to the library and I got, what else did I get? Okay, so they have a program at the library. The librarians are fantastic where I live, and they have this thing called Read Outside Your Box. For example, read a book by or about someone from an indigenous culture. It says here, parenthetically, Native American, Aboriginal. Read a book that has been banned or frequently challenged. Read an LGBTQ plus romance novel. Read a book you've been intimidated to read. I just love this. I read like this anyway. I've been challenging myself for decades to read outside the box, and it's really enriched my life. However, when I went tonight to the library, this was part of their display. This one's called Historical Fiction with a POC Protagonist, Person of Color Protagonist. The author is, I don't know how he identifies. He's born in New York and raised mostly in Houston. So I have to read his book to see how he self-identifies. But looking at this, he's clearly a person of color. I don't know if he identifies as black, or it could be Latino, or it could be Native. I don't know, but he's a person of color. And what inspired me about this book it starts off in the jacket in 1915, The Birth of a Nation, the movie casts a spell across America. I'm in because there was some. I'm just in because I've been on this journey of exploring my blackness in America. This is one written in prison. Now, what's interesting about this book, you see the thickness of this book? Girlfriend does not read books. Girlfriend reads books that have this size. This page, oh my God, it's 900 pages. I've never read a book this long, and I don't feel bad about that. At the same time, this was interesting. The prison, this is by Gregory David Roberts, and so this is an Australian prison, India, so it's definitely, it's something I typically wouldn't read, so it's outside the box. Written in prison, prisoners, 900 pages, I again, one of the things I do at this stage of my life, I go to the first sentence, and if I'm drawn in, then I'll pick it up. It took me a long time in most of the world to learn what I know about love and fate and the choices we make. And that's as far as I got, and I'm like, I'm in. I don't know if I'm gonna stay in because I've had this experience where I'll read a first line and then it doesn't work out. But oh, okay, the essential June Jordan. So since the murder of George Floyd, actually that prompted a book that I co-wrote that McGraw-Hill published this August 2021. I co-wrote it with a friend of mine who I met in the workplace more than 2 decades ago. We've been good friends ever since, and she's a white woman who called me the day after George Floyd was murdered to reach out to me, and that faithful call launched a book. I'll put it in the notes there. But the reason I'm telling you this, yeah, oh, sure, I'd love for you to buy the book if if it resonates for you. But this is not a book commercial. The reason I'm telling you that is because it's context for what I picked up tonight, I think, and just where my head is at. So June Jordan, I've heard her name. I know she is a black poet, and she's somebody that I know I need to read, and I haven't. And I've heard her name for decades, and particularly when I lived in Hartford, Connecticut. And I don't know if she's from Hartford, Connecticut, but her name keeps coming up. I started subscribing to the Root newsletter, reading Black news because I need to read news that's not mainstream and often biased. So I just saw the essential June Jordan and I picked it up. So and I do love poetry. So we'll see. Hungry Hearts. This was also essays on courage, desire, and belonging. So I don't know anything about the author, but excuse me, there's like, I don't, again, what inspires me is learning, is being a continual learner. So there's that. And I know I've been talking for a minute, so I'm going to speed it up. There's one name I reckon, well, there's one name I recognize here. Well, there's several names, but there's one, Austin Channing Brown, who wrote the subtitle is Black Dignity in a White World. Anyway, Austin Channing Brown, uh, my co-author and friend Margaret Greenberg and I referenced in our book, The Business of Race, How to Create and Sustain an Anti-Racist Workplace, and why it's actually good for business. So I've seen her, Chimamanda Ngozi Adiche, gorgeous name, and this woman is a queen. She is a queen. She is so regal. She makes me look like a thug. On the Lower East Side of New York, she's just so regal. I love her. So I've seen her interviews, her TED Talks, and I love what she has to say. I have not read a lot of books by African writers, and I'm into contemporary fiction, generally speaking, So while there may be some classics of contemporary African writers, I mean, like historical or African writers from decades past, what I like about her is, she's contemporary. So I'm in love with her as a speaker, as a thinker. So I'm gonna go for her writing and see. And she's written a number of books, and this is one where I read the description and I thought it was so basically. So there's a lot. I mean, there's books all over my house, most of which I don't own anymore because it literally took me 10 years to dismantle my personal library because it was that crazy. And I'm like, girl, you're getting old and you can't take these with you. So, oh, but speaking of promiscuity, literary promiscuity, books promiscuously read. Reading is a way of life. Need I say any more? Okay. And this is, and this is good because now this woman, I don't know how she self-identifies. I would say Heather Kate Cass White, probably not a person of color. I don't know if she identifies how, I don't know how she identifies, but probably not a person of color. But this is good. I have a bachelor's degree in English and I have a master's degree in education. So when I was in college, all the books I read were written by people who look like this. Uh, that needs to change. Creative pep talk. I love creative community, and in my analog life, as opposed to my internet life, my book life, I don't have a lot of creative partnership. I, I just the book is gorgeous, and look at this. I love the graphics, and who, as it says here, who can't you, as artists, we need pep talks every now and then. I'm pretty prolific. I've written 19 books, and counting. I have daily art practice. But sometimes, I get in a mood and I need a pep talk. So here we go. I get in a mood like, what's it all about, Gina? I'm dating myself because that ain't Pitbull. That ain't Pitbull, baby. The Art of Crayon. Enough said. Okay, what else? Oh, here we go. So the final thing I'll share for this inspiration. It's supposed to be a minute long, but I had to introduce the thing. I'm really gonna go with a minute. That's my goal, but we'll see what happens. I had a yoga instructor who used to say that she'd get in these pretzel poses, and she'd say, you know. She says, put your leg here, your arm here, your back here, and she says, and get into a position like this or something like that, she would say. Something like that. She was really into, it's all good, whatever you can do. And I really like that about her. So this is an experiment. We don't know. If you know, then it's not an experiment. So blood, sweat, and tears. I um, I made a point in the last 30 years of listening to music that is new to me, of deliberately not listening to music that I grew up with in the 60s and 70s and 80s. Because after that point, I was in graduate school and I started working professionally, and I didn't really, 90s music then on, unless it was in the top 40, if I didn't hear it on the radio, back in the day, then it didn't exist for me. So I really I have really, again, focused. I'm a lifelong learner, and what inspires me, I think the theme of this, at least today, is uh, continual learning and growth. So I made a point of not, over the last decades, of not listening to music that was familiar to me, and I have just been exposed to so much that's new and wonderful. I mean, the internet. Oh my God, I love the internet. How I got through college and graduate school without the internet, it's a mystery to me. I was going with a bag of nickels to the Xerox machine, at the library. Um, so music from my younger years as a young woman, as a young professional, it's starting, like it's just there. And so uh, I didn't know that Laura Nero, who's the late Laura Nero, who was from the Bronx, my native New York, was the songwriter for so many hits that I love, including well, Stony End that Barbara Streisand made popular. Just about five things that the Fifth Dimension did. She wrote Sweet Eyed Blindness and Stone Soul Picnic, and then Blood, Sweat, and Tears. She wrote "Oh When I Die," and I never connected Laura Nero. I dated a guy who was really into Laura Nero. I mean, this is 100 years ago when I was 17 years old. And I never connected her to all of this incredible, this body of work. I mean, the woman was really a prodigy. So I don't remember how I got to, I don't remember, but somehow the fifth dimension was in my head. And this is what inspires me. It's just one of the things that inspires me is just sort of following where my brain goes rather than trying to corral it. I don't, rather than try to drag my brain behind me, I actually follow it. I'm water skiing behind it. So I think I started thinking about the fifth dimension, and then I went on the internet, love it, uh, and I came across Sweet Eyed Blindness. Oh, I love that song. I'm like, who wrote that song? And it's Laura Nero. And then I start reading about her, and this woman is just incredible. And then so now I want to revisit her writing through all these incredible songs that I grew up with. So anyway, I forget his name, of course. I think it's Michael Clayton Thomas or David Clayton Thomas. I don't know. Some of you probably know it better than I do, but I think it's David Clayton Thomas. I want to say Michael Clayton because it was a movie. I think it's David Clayton Thomas. I love his voice. So, Blood, Sweat, and Tears. I put that on reserve. So that's it. One of the things that I love to do. So I'm not going to do this again. This segment of going to the library because I'm in the library. I live in the library, so I'm in the library. 2, 3, 4 times a week. I put stuff on reserve. That I hear about, that I read about, and then I love just hanging out in the stacks. I mean, I can, and I have spent hours in the stacks. And so that's my inspiration for today, to just troll the shelves in the library and see what happens. Uh, there's the new, a lot of people go to the new, what's new, in fiction and nonfiction, there's that section. My library is I call it my home library, my neighborhood is so amazing. The librarians there do these incredible displays and suggestions, and they're throughout the library. I happen to look at the one that says "Step outside your box," and I do blog on my website, so I'll blog about that. So I'll put my website information in there. One, two, I will put um, what was the other thing I was gonna do? I don't remember now, but I think I will put. I'll put the name of these books in here. See what happens, and then and then the link to the book that I wrote, book number 19, The Business of Race. It's a business book, and I'll let it speak for itself. I'll let it speak for itself. It's on Amazon and blah blah blah. That's it. Kind of long for a talking head. Um, you know, the young people out here, they got this whole video thing down. So perhaps I'll be a little more inventive next time. Over time, like I said, it's an experiment. Who knows? I might do this 3 days and then I'll be bored. I have this idea that I'm going to do this daily for the next year. Who knows? But hey, the fact that I have good lighting, this comes from because I've been doing, I've been Zooming like everybody else, business meetings, presentations that my co-author and I have done. And so she got me on you need to kind of get with this light. I have these, I mean, the fact that I have this light is like a big deal. And so that's it. Inspiration 365 or what inspires me. I'm bored. And what I mean by what I mean by that is, see, boredom is not, I don't see boredom as pathological. I'll also do the link. I'll put in the, in the, what do you call it? The memo or whatever, uh, at the bottom of the video, the link to a blog that I wrote about boredom. Boredom is not something, boredom is an opportunity, yeah, and it's not something to run from. It's something to embrace. When you're bored, I'm like, let yourself be bored. I mean, don't distract yourself with silly people, silly conversations, eating food and drinking stuff, and taking stuff that really is not in your best interest. Just let yourself be bored, because what that is when you're bored, you're deep inside your comfort zone and you're not being challenged. And so when you sit with that, right, very hard for many of us in the West, particularly those of us who are from the United States, not necessarily who live here, but who are, who have that mindset. It's like, oh, I'm bored. Something must be wrong with me. No, I mean, it's just, that's a gift. So I'm feeling like, I'm coming off of this year of having written this book that I never thought I would write. Really, it's a scholarly book, nothing like I've ever written before, and it's the first time I've collaborated. It's a business book, and it's on something that if you had told me a year and a half ago I'd be writing on race and racism, I'd be like, no. But of course, um, the events of May 20, the murder of George Floyd on May 25th, and then the call from my friend on May 26th, launched me on a journey, a personal journey, that I didn't expect. So, um, anyway, we're gonna try this. We're gonna, like, my former yoga instructor. She's former only because I don't go to yoga class anymore. I just do it at my house. But COVID changed, so I don't go. I used to go dancing, comedy club. I don't do any of that now. So yeah, I'm bored, meaning I'm within my comfort zone. The book was an incredible, rewarding, intense challenge, and I'm very proud of it. Um, and so I have other goals and stuff that are in the works that I'm not talking about that. But this whole idea of inspiration, a daily inspiration, I've had this idea, I swear to God, for like 8 months, and it will not go away. And I know that if you have an idea and it doesn't go away, it will drive you batty unless you act on it. And you never know. I've had outlandish ideas that I try to talk myself out of, and then I do it, and it just creates this breadcrumb trail that leads me to something um, transformative in my life that I would not have discovered had I not taken that first step of simply being open to and acting on this idea. So that's what this is. And it's 20 something minutes long. You've probably checked out by now, but whatever. For those of you who have hung in, good for you. Alrighty. Night. And so this is October 5th, 2021. So I'm going to say it here, and it may not work. Um, the idea is that I'm going to do this every day, and I'm going to keep it to a minute, and that's my goal. I mean, here it's 25 minutes, so I think, all right, maybe I'll get to like 10, and then 8, and then 5, and then on October 5th, 2022, God willing, and the creek don't rise, because none of us, tomorrow is promised to none of us. This is what my father told me when I was 7. Okay. Um, we'll see what happens. If we'll see. Bye. And now, of course, I have to figure out how to stop the recording. Can you tell I was born in the mid 20th century?